3 spine-chilling true stories. Terrifying encounters with the sinister unknown lurking outside. Sarah thought she was escaping the horror of her life when she moved to Maplewood. The streets were inviting, and the sun painted the facades of homes with warmth. But the peace shattered the moment she heard the howling from the woods, a deep, wrenching sound that clawed at her insides. She tried to laugh it off, close the curtains, and bury the feeling of dread. After all, who wouldn't want to believe they had finally found a safe haven? But as the sun dipped below the horizon, that comforting light faded away, drawing a heavy curtain of silence that bared an unsettling unease. Her fingers twitched when the streetlights flickered. Those ominous shadows danced wildly against the walls of her living room, bringing flickers of memories from her past less than comforting. Alone with her 6-year-old daughter Lily, Sarah's heart raced with every creak and sigh of the house, a prison of whispered fears. The woods beckoned, but not in a friendly way. She kept hearing the rustles, the echoes of lost words, and the chilling instinct whispered to her that something was wrong. Then, the disappearances began. Sweet Mrs. Thompson had vanished without a word, and Sarah could feel that the weight of hidden secrets clung to her neighbors like a fog. The brief flickers of concern in their eyes when the missing persons were brought up, quickly masked by the mundane talk about quad bike repairs or prize-winning tomatoes, made her skin crawl. It was wrong, all of it. Every unfriendly glance left her feeling hollow and exposed. When she went to the police, their polite indifference struck her like a slap. "I assure you, ma'am, it's probably nothing," they scoffed, washing their hands of it. But alone, on this quiet street, she felt anything but safe. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a rising urgency, Sarah decided to unravel the truth herself. On a cold night when the darkness felt alive, she tightened her grip on a flashlight and stepped outside. Each step felt like a taunt, the wind whispering her name, daring her to turn back. The shadows lurked, teasing her perception, warping the familiar into something sinister. She had to protect Lily, to chase the secrets back to the depths of the woods where they belonged. But the deeper she ventured, the more the air thickened with a malodorous dread. A rustle echoed. She froze. Her heart thundered in her chest as her flashlight beam caught the corner of movement against an ancient oak. Dread rooted her to the spot as the dark figure slouched there, shrouded in twilight. Cold sweat broke over her brow as it turned its head, too slowly, too deliberately, as if tuning into her racing heartbeat. Panic clawed at her throat. Was it the nightmare she had long feared? Or had she just walked into a trap? She held Lily's hand tightly, taking one breath for courage. What was the truth lurking in the shadows? And was it already too late to save them both? The figure stepped into the beam of her flashlight, revealing a hollow face twisted in a grotesque grin. Its eyes were voids, bubbling with something dark and hungry that sent shivers down her spine. Sarah's breath hitched. She felt Lily squeeze her hand tighter, her small body trembling beside her. "Mommy," Lily whimpered, her voice barely a whisper. Sarah murmured, but the word tasted like ash in her mouth. There was no shushing this, no way to smother the terror. The rustling in the bushes intensified, a cacophony of sounds that jumbled into a merciless onslaught of dread. She shifted her flashlight, but the darkness engulfed anything beyond a few feet ahead, twisting ordinary shapes into nightmarish forms. "Step back," Sarah commanded, her throat dry and strained. But the creature lurched forward, staggering in a way that was both human and inhuman. A sludgy stain dripped from its fingers, melting into the grass like spilled ink. How much of it was just her imagination, and how much was that night's sinister truth? The forest felt alive, holding its breath, waiting to see how this confrontation would unravel. "Mommy," Lily cried, panic flooding her voice. "Run," Sarah shouted, feeling the weight of the night crush her spirit. She wrapped her protective instincts around her daughter and yanked her backward. They had to get back to the house, away from the unsettling figure that seemed to mock them with its slow movements. But the woods exploded into noise around them, a symphony of howls and rustles, as if the very trees had come alive to join this nightmare. Before they could take more than a few steps, something large and dark surged past them, blurring by in a flash. "Keep moving," Sarah urged, and got them into a mindless sprint, hearts racing, pounding in unison like drums of dread inside their chests. Lily stumbled, falling in the oppressive darkness, and Sarah quickly pulled her back to her feet. "Don't stop. Don't look back." But a sickening force pulled Sarah's gaze back to the figure, now eerily standing still, head cocked at a strange angle, eyes still locked onto them. It seemed to grow taller, looming against the trees, flat against the shadows that surrounded it. "Mommy, it's coming," Lily gasped between breaths. "Faster," Sarah screamed. They could hear the heavy sounds of pursuit, a rustling trampling behind them that sent jagged fear-like knives into her mind. Had they underestimated the darkness? They bolted past the edge of their yard, the comforting glow of their porch lights standing against the oppressive blackness of the woods. Almost with one swift motion, Sarah flung open the door, dragging Lily inside with her, slamming it shut and bolting it behind them. Gasping for breath, they stumbled into the front room, hearts thumping in their ears. Silence hung in the air, thick and suffocating. But it was only for a heartbeat before a deafening crash echoed from the back of the house. The door rattled on its hinges, as if something on the other side was determined to break in. Sarah's heart sank. The creature hadn't followed them inside. Something worse had. "Stay here, Lily," Sarah commanded, clenching her fists. She moved toward the kitchen where the noise originated, dreading every step, but needing to protect her child from the unknown terror lurking just beyond their walls. Just as she approached the kitchen doorway, a chilling whisper drifted through the air. "You won't escape." Sarah froze. How could it know? A new wave of dread washed over her, leaving her breathless. She whipped her head back toward Lily, who stood in the hallway, eyes wide with fear. It wasn't over. The night was far from finished. What unspeakable horror awaited them in the dark corners of their home? The crash came again, a sound like a door being splintered from its frame. It resonated in Sarah's chest with a bone-deep dread. Every instinct in her screamed to run, to gather Lily and flee into the night. But she stood there, straining to hear above the pounding of her heart. "Mommy." Lily's small voice trembled. Her tiny feet shuffled closer, seeking comfort. "Stay back," Sarah hissed softly, scanning the dim hallway leading to the kitchen. The faint glow from the nearby lamp stretched eerie shadows against the walls, twisting into grotesque shapes in the play of light and dark. The air thickened. A putrid odor began to weave through the house, choking the comforting sense of pine and family dinners long past. It was as if death itself had seeped into their home sinister and alive. Then, the whisper returned, cruel and mocking. "You can't hide." It wasn't just sound. It wrapped around her, a tangible fear that seeped beneath her skin. What was waiting on the other side? The kitchen was closer now, the threshold blurring in her vision as if it were shifting. Lily squeezed her hand, eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. Sarah wanted to comfort her, but the whispers turned to disembodied laughter, faint yet unmistakable, reverberating off the walls. "Get ready, honey," she said, her voice trembling as she stepped toward the kitchen. Each footfall felt like an admission, a surrender. Just then, the lights flickered violently. For a fraction of a second, everything plunged into darkness, and Sarah thought she'd lost all sense of reality. Breathing through the stench, she clutched Lily's small hand tighter, a lifeline against the encroaching dark. When the lights returned, what was in the kitchen sent icy tentacles of fear coiling around Sarah's spine. The table was upended, chairs strewn about, but it was the unnatural presence lurking there that caused her heart to stutter. A ripple of shadow lay pooled on the floor, like ink spilled on a canvas. "Mommy, what is that?" Lily whispered, trembling. "I don't know." Sarah's throat tightened. In that moment, she saw it a vague outline, something that shouldn't be. It slithered from the darkness beneath the stove, a mass of sinewy shadows connecting to something that looked almost like a hand, claws extended, grasping for the light. "Get back," Sarah yelled, pulling Lily behind her, adrenaline surging, pushing her forward. Out of the way. The kitchen door swung open on its own, creaking ominously as if inviting them to escape. But the shadows didn't relent. They enveloped the kitchen, creeping toward her with a hunger that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. "Mommy!" Lily cried, pointing. Something was moving, shifting, snapping into place. It was forming. A face emerged hollow with dark pits for eyes, an eternal grin stretching wide like a predator luring in its prey. Sarah's legs felt like lead, frozen before the horror before her. "Leave us alone," she screamed, feeling every ounce of protective instinct swell within her. A deafening silence followed, and then the entity's grin widened, exposing jagged teeth, each one glistening, slick with malice. "Join us, no choice. Run." Sarah tore away from the doorway, dragging Lily with her toward the front of the house. They had to reach the safety of the living room, to barricade themselves against whatever stood ready to devour them. But as she pulled open the front door, a force unlike anything she had ever felt slammed it shut. The darkness advanced behind her, squeezing the walls taut as it laughed with hollow echoes. "Mommy!" Lily whimpered again, her voice a pinprick in the overwhelming dread that thickened around them. Sarah spun, ready to fight, but the darkness laughed louder, echoing through her bones. "You can't escape." She looked into her daughter's frightened eyes, a reflection of despair that matched her own. But there beyond the laughter was a flicker of hope. A glimmer of light shimmered at the edge of the hall, flickering as if calling to them, offering a chance of salvation. Was it real? "Hold my hand," Sarah said, heart pounding, eyes set on that desperate glimmer. As they ran toward it, the air twisted behind them. An anguished roar erupted, shaking the very foundation of their home. What would they find at the end of that light? Or would the darkness swallow them whole? The light flickered, casting erratic shadows that danced along the walls as Sarah sprinted with Lily in tow. Her breath came in desperate gasps, the air thick with the stench of decay that clung to her clothes. Each beat of her heart felt like an echo in the vast, oppressive darkness surrounding them. "Mommy, what is happening?" Lily cried, her small voice trembling with fear. "Stay close," Sarah shouted back, her voice a strained whisper as they crossed into the narrow hall leading to the flicker of hope. The light swayed as if it had a life of its own, beckoning them forward. But with each step, an unseen force clawed at Sarah's back, whispering promises of despair. "You can't escape." It slithered through her thoughts, wrapping around her mind like fog. She forced herself to focus, to push past the suffocating dread. Just as she reached the doorway to the living room, the light suddenly dimmed, flickering and sputtering like a dying ember. Panic surged through her. "No, no, no." Then it went out completely. Darkness enveloped them, thick and palpable, like a living thing. The silence was deafening. The laughter returned, a cruel symphony echoing through the air, a sound that twisted her stomach and chilled her bones. "Mommy?" Lily whimpered again, the mere word a feeble plea in the grasp of terror. "Stay calm, sweetheart," Sarah whispered, though her heart raced. Her hands shook, and she stood motionless, straining to see anything beyond the void. With a deep breath, she reached into the dark, searching for familiarity. Anything. A wall, a chair, maybe even the cool touch of the switch that would bring light back to their world. "I can't see," Lily cried, a sob hitching in her throat. Sarah felt her daughter's tiny fingers slip from her grip, retreating into the darkness. "Lily!" Panic clawed at Sarah's throat as she stumbled forward, arms outstretched. "Where are you?" "Mommy!" She could barely make out Lily's silhouette just beyond her reach. A feral growl echoed through the void, deeper and more menacing than before. The very walls seemed to shudder as it reverberated through the house, shaking Sarah to her core. "Lily, don't move!" Sarah screamed, her voice cracking. She closed her eyes for a moment, forcing herself to remember the feeling of safety moments from the past in this very house, when laughter filled every room. In a moment of defiance, she opened her eyes and pushed forward, diving toward where she believed Lily stood. She felt her fingertips brush the cool, soft fabric of her daughter's sweater. "Got you." She hoisted Lily into her arms, feeling the comforting weight of her child, even as her own heart raced with primal fear. "Run, Mommy!" Lily cried, her voice catching on another growl that resonated deep within the darkness. They stumbled backward, but the kitchen door slammed shut, the sound monstrous in the thick silence. The darkness rippled, expanding, feeding off their fear. A figure vaguely formed in the shadows, a grotesque mockery of an innocent face, its grin stretching like a gash across the void. "Join us," it cooed, its voice seductive yet chilling. "Never," Sarah shouted, her resolve hardening. She wouldn't let this thing take them. They'd find a way out, even if it meant confronting the abyss itself. In the corner of her mind, she recalled the way her grandmother had fought off the darkness with a candle that chased the shadows away. "We need light, Lily," she exclaimed, searching desperately for anything that could illuminate their path. Then, she spotted a small flashlight lying on the floor near the couch. The very thing she had told herself to put away weeks ago. "Hold on tight," she yelled, tugging Lily close and lunging toward it. Just as her fingers grazed the flashlight, the shadows roared, the walls trembled, and every scrap of hope threatened to dissolve into the encroaching dark. Would the light even work? Could it contain the void? As she clicked the switch, she braced herself, knowing that whatever came next would be the true test of survival. But the moment the beam shot forth, it illuminated the room, revealing something else entirely, a doorway that had never been there before, pulsating with an eerie light. "Mommy," Lily pointed, eyes wide with both fear and fascination. "What is that?" Sarah's heart raced again, uncertainty flooding her veins. She had to choose: face the doorway that beckoned with a glow promising escape, or confront the darkness that loomed, waiting to grab hold of everything she loved. Would they have the strength to face the unknown? Or would they forever be consumed by the darkness? The flashlight's beam cut sharply through the darkness, illuminating the room with a ghostly pallor. It revealed splintered walls and furniture draped in dust, remnants of a life once filled with laughter. But the doorway pulsed like a heartbeat, beckoning them closer. Sarah's stomach twisted as she shifted the light back, catching the grotesque figure still lurking in the gloom, its smile wide and hungry. "Mommy, please." Lily's voice trembled, and the fear in her eyes made Sarah's heart clench. The thing in the shadows seemed to shift, its limbs stretching impossibly, taunting them with movements that were both fluid and grotesque. Sarah forced herself to meet her daughter's gaze, searching for courage beneath the surface of terror. "Stay close. Whatever happens, we don't lose each other, got it?" Sarah tightened her grip around Lily, readying herself for their next move. The doorway flickered again, and Sarah felt an inexplicable pull. Something deep within her resonated with the light, an echo of promises from the past. That feeling stirred a flicker of hope, but it quickly faded under the weight of dread. The growling from the shadows deepened, and Sarah's breath quickened. "Lily, we'll go through the door." It was a declaration, not a question. The flickering light felt like a lifeline, and she'd rather face the unknown than stay in this hellish nightmare. "Now," Lily squeaked, uncertainty woven into her small voice. "Yes." Sarah took a step forward, determination surging through her veins. As they approached the doorway, it seemed to shimmer, pulsing brighter, almost inviting them in. With each step, the oppressive darkness receded just slightly, as if the light had teeth and was biting into the void. But a chilling laugh echoed behind them, slicing through their resolve. "You think you can escape? You're already mine." The voice slithered into her ears, chilling her blood and freezing her feet to the ground. "Mommy." Lily's pull on her hand became frantic, a collision of urgency and fear. The shadows swirled around them, hungry and relentless. "Don't look back," Sarah shouted, her voice a mix of command and pleading. She thrust the flashlight toward the doorway, its warm light flickering in defiance. With a swift motion, she turned the handle and, with a shove, pushed the door open. They tumbled through, falling into a vast expanse of blinding light that enveloped them like a warm embrace. But it didn't last long. Within moments, they landed on unsettling ground, a patch of grass that felt alive, shifting beneath their weight. Sarah blinked against the brightness, struggling to understand where they were. The sounds of the darkness faded, but the air still carried an electric tension. They were outside, yet a thick fog curled around them, obscuring the landscape. Clusters of trees loomed in the distance, twisted and gnarled, their shapes unnatural, almost alive. "Where are we?" Lily's voice was small again, the fear returning as the fog pressed in. Sarah turned slowly, scanning their surroundings. It looked like a different world, one where the moon hung low and hungrier than before. Shadows danced between the trees, flickering at the edges of her vision. As she held the flashlight aloft, a chilling realization settled coldly in her stomach. What if they hadn't escaped? What if the doorway had led to something worse, something even darker than before? Mom. Lily's voice quivered, pulling Sarah's attention back. I don't know, sweetie, but we need to keep moving. They stumbled forward, the flashlight beam cutting through the thickening mist. Then, a whisper brushed against her ear. You can't hide from us. The agony of 1,000 lost souls filled the air. Panic surged as Sarah steeled herself against the dark whispers winding through the trees. Was the thing following them? Or had they stepped into something more sinister? Run, Mommy, Lily urged, terror twisting her small features. Sarah didn't need to be told twice. They ran, the fog swirling around their feet, eager to pull them under. Each step echoed with a question that hung thick. In the air, what exactly had they stumbled into, and how could they find their way back? As they dashed deeper into the forest, Sarah's heart raced with an overwhelming dread. It was alive, watching them as they fled. What awaited them at the end of this twisted path? Before she could find her answer, a figure emerged from the mist, blocking their way, a silhouette that promised more darkness, more torment. Where do you think you're going? It hissed, an insidious grin splitting its shadowed face. In that moment, Sarah realized escape was just a word, and fear had never felt so real. The figure stepped forward, solidifying itself in the patchy light. Its eyes glowed an unsettling shade of yellow, and shadows clung to its form like a tattered cloak. Sarah's breath hitched, her instincts screaming to flee, yet her feet felt glued to the ground. Mommy. Lily's grip tightened on her hand, her voice barely a whisper now. Fear rushed through Sarah like ice water. What do you want? She demanded, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. Want? The thing echoed, tilting its head in mock confusion. Oh, I want you. The grin stretched wider, splitting the darkness as if it were alive. Every inch of Sarah wanted to turn and run, but something in the creature's gaze held her captive. Run, Lily, she screamed, breaking the spell just long enough for her to drag her daughter toward the looming trees behind them. They turned, scrambling through the deepening fog, hearts pounding in synchronicity as the sinister laughter echoed, reverberating through the night air. Where are we even going? Lily gasped, her little legs struggling to keep pace as branches clawed at them. Anywhere but here, Sarah snapped, desperation fueling her voice. They ducked left, weaving in and out of trees that seemed to breathe. But the fog twisted around them, disorienting, as though it had eyes watching their every move. Each breath was heavy, thick with dread. Every rustle of wind made Sarah jump. The shadows were closing in, and the laughter seemed to multiply, echoing all around. Suddenly, a flash of light broke through the fog, illuminating a small clearing. It felt like a refuge, but a nagging thought pricked at Sarah. Could they trust it? Mommy, please, Lily whimpered. Okay, Sarah replied, sensing the desperation in her voice. They staggered into the clearing, lungs burning, but the moment they stepped into the light, the air turned icy. The glow was unnatural, buzzing with an energy that felt wrong. Then, without warning, the ground beneath them began to tremble. Sections of earth cracked, and a mournful wail rose from below. Sarah stumbled back, pulling Lily close as fissures erupted in a violent dance. What is happening? The trees around them began to shift, their branches fusing, weaving together like skeletal fingers. They were forming a barrier, encapsulating the clearing in a horrific embrace. Leave while you can, a voice whispered from the wall of trees, each word dripping with malice. She is coming who? Lily cried, her voice breaking as she looked up at her mother, fear etched across her pale face. Stay behind me, Sarah instructed, assessing their options. Escape felt impossible as the darkness inched closer, clawing at the edges of the light. But there was something else now, a sense of urgency. The eerie laughter had receded, replaced by a low hum, pulsating like a heartbeat. It converged on them, wrapping around their minds, twisting thoughts into a whirlpool of horror. Whatever was coming, it was hungry. Mom. Lily's eyes shimmered with tears, and Sarah felt her own resolve begin to crack. There has to be a way out, she murmured, her heart racing. But her mind floundered as the trees creaked. Help me. A ghostly figure suddenly shimmered through the fog, trapped in the ethereal web of branches. Please. It looked like a woman, her features softened by sorrow, yet her eyes held secrets better left buried. Let her go? Sarah screamed as the figure reached out, desperation evident. But just as quickly, the trees laced tighter, mocking her plea as the light flickered and waned. Time moves differently here. You know, the woman whispered, her voice hauntingly melodic. What will you sacrifice to save your child? At that moment, Sarah realized they were waking up a storm, and the cost might be higher than she could bear. The shifting shadows began to coalesce around them, and she felt a thick, cold press against her back, urging her to make a choice she had never imagined. Mommy. Lily's voice broke through again, sharp and panicked. A deep rumble echoed as the ground began to shift again, opening into a yawning chasm. Jump! Sarah yelled, not knowing where it would land them, but knowing they had run out of time. As they leaped into the unknown, her heart raced. What lay beneath? The answer would come soon. But Sarah had just dipped her toes into a mystery far deeper than the fears that chased them, and what if this was just the beginning? The world became noise as they plummeted. Sarah felt the air whip around them, chilling her skin and filling her ears with the rush of terror. Time folded as they fell, stretching moments before solid ground met them with a jarring thud. Groaning, Sarah rolled over, instinctively covering Lily with her body. The impact rattled her bones, the vibrance of life outside swallowed by the oppressive darkness surrounding them. She blinked against the pitch black, breath coming in quick gasps. Mommy, are we okay? Lily's voice trembled, small and vulnerable. Yes, Sarah whispered, trying to make sense of their surroundings. A lingering, hollow echo reverberated. They were in some kind of cavern, walls slick and damp, draped in shadows that writhed and shifted around them. The sense of being watched pressed down on her like a heavy weight. What happened? Lily pressed, feeling her way along Sarah's arm, desperate for contact. Sarah strained to hear beyond the silence, but could only sense an unsettling pulse in the air, as if the darkness itself was breathing. I don't know, she finally admitted, her heart sinking. But we need to move. Marginally steadied, she pushed herself up, and Lily followed, clinging to her side. As Sarah took a step forward, her foot splashed into something cold and wet. Mom, what is it? Just water, she replied hesitantly, feeling the ground beneath squishy and unstable. It wasn't deep, but her instincts warned her that the murkiness could hide anything. She felt a shiver run through her, not from the chill alone, but at the thought of whatever might be lurking. Is this a cave? Lily's breath fluttered. I think so. We need to find a way out. Stay close. They moved cautiously, the echoes of each step magnifying in the confined space. The sound of dripping water pierced the silence like a taunt, echoing unnervingly. Shadows danced in the edges of the flickering light from an unknown source, and Sarah steeled herself against the eerie sensation that something was lurking just beyond her sight. Then she heard it, a soft whisper, skirting along the edges of her consciousness, pulling her focus. It was low, almost melodic, yet filled with a discord that made her skin crawl. Join us, Mom. I don't like this. Lily tugged at her skirt, panic rising in her voice. Just keep moving. Honey, Sarah urged, adrenaline pumping through her veins as they pressed on. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, but there was no way to go but forward. The whispers spiraled around them, growing clearer, more distinct, yet layered with an unfathomable dread. Sarah felt sweat bead on her forehead despite the dampness engulfing them. Who is there? She shouted, voice shaking but loud enough to mask her fear. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Shadows coalesced into shapes, not just darkness, but silhouettes of figures, their forms grotesque and familiar. The echo of their laughter mingled with the haunting whispers, those overlaid with longing and dread. Help us, one of them wheezed, limbs elongated in unnatural angles, eyes brightly gleaming in the dimness. The figure stretched its hand toward them, trembling with desperation. Stay back, Sarah shouted, instinctively pulling Lily behind her. But something pulled at her too, curiosity battling fear. What do you want? Don't you see? Another figure moaned, swaying as if mesmerized by her gaze. We just want to be free. The darkness thickened, closing in, forming a barrier around them. The figures began to reach out, elongated fingers brushing against the edges of their fears. The whispers surged, drowning out reason, weaving visions into Sarah's mind, a dance of shadows, of things lost, of hearts desperate for salvation. "Mom, we have to go." Lily pressed against her leg, eyes wide with terror, breaking the spell. Sarah shook her head, heart racing. How could they escape this grasping darkness? With every ounce of courage, she turned away from the figures, pulling Lily tightly to her. "Run!" The cavern echoed with their desperate flight, the shadows crying out in anguish. But they seemed to be trapped in the stifling grip of something far more terrible than fear. It was a torment fueled by loss. Suddenly, a blinding light flashed in the distance. Was this the way out? Sarah didn't hesitate. They sprinted towards it, heartbeats synchronized with the relentless whispers still trailing in the air. But as they neared the light, a bone-chilling realization hit her. What if the exit led to something worse? "Mom!" Lily screamed as spectral fingers grasped at her, desperately trying to pull her back. Sarah's heart clenched tight as she fought against the gripping change of the shadows, desperately casting her daughter towards the light. And that's when she heard the truth resonate through the echoing chamber. You must choose one. Will stay. In that shaky moment, she had to decide, and the dread that enveloped them tightened like a noose around her throat, squeezing every ounce of breath from her body. Could she sacrifice herself to save her daughter, or would she have to let go of Lily? Time paused, seconds stretching into eternity as the foreboding shadows crept closer. The answer loomed like a storm above, waiting to be unleashed, but what awaited them beyond the light was a horror that could change everything. What would it take to break free? The light pulsed like a heartbeat, bright yet distant, teasing them with hope. Struggling against the darkness that swirled around them, Sarah felt the weight of the choice pressing down on her. She couldn't let go. Not now. Not ever. "Lily," she cried, trying to drown out the cacophony of whispers that begged for her attention. "Hold on to me. You can't leave me, Mommy." Lily's voice wailed, and Sarah felt every ounce of that desperation slicing through her like a knife. The shadows writhed, pulling, tugging at the little girl, their grasp cold and slimy, like barbed wire against her skin. "No," Sarah shouted, clenching her fists. "We're walking into that light, Lily." The figures around them shrieked, their dismay echoing around the cavern walls. "Stay," they pleaded, claws grasping at Sarah's feet as if trying to trap her in place. "Join us. You belong with us now." And oh. The word burst from her lips like an explosion, shaking her core. Rage ignited in her chest, fueling her fight against the panicked thoughts that surrounded them. She dug her feet into the slick ground, pushing back against the maelstrom of shadows. With determination, she grabbed Lily by the hand, yanking her forward. They stumbled toward the light, fear and adrenaline guiding their every move. The whispers roared in protest, growing frantic, as if their plea was slipping away. In moments, the blinding light grew larger, filling the cavern with an ethereal glow that cast the grotesque figures into stark relief. Their faces twisted in agony and longing, mouths stretched in a silent scream. Sarah felt a pang of guilt, an ache that tried to claw its way into her heart. "Mommy!" Lily cried again, her grip tightening. The net of shadows lurched at them, desperate to reclaim their prize. "Keep pushing." The words tore from Sarah. Each step felt heavier as they neared the light, as if they were wading through molasses. Then, just as the darkness surged with one last assault, they burst forth into the brightness. They stumbled out of the cave and into a vast, barren expanse. The air was thick with a ghostly mist. But behind them, the echoes of the cavern faded, the shadows receded into nothingness, leaving only an unsettling silence in their wake. Sarah blinked at the vast emptiness before them. The ground was cracked and dry, like a wasteland begging for rain. "Where are we?" Lily breathed, overtaking her fear for a moment. "I don't know," Sarah replied, scanning the horizon. Shadows danced on the edges of her vision, creeping into the corners of her consciousness. The terror from the cave still lurked, whispering in her mind that something was terribly wrong. "Mommy, look!" Lily pointed. In the far distance, a dark figure stood silhouetted against the bright backdrop of whatever world this was. It seemed to be watching them, motionless but undeniably present. The figure's form rippled and morphed, reminding Sarah too much of the shapes from the cavern, and instinctively, fear clutched at her heart. Turn around. We need to go back. Sarah turned, panic rising in her throat, but the cave was gone. Just a flat plain stretching endlessly in both directions, the entrance lost to them. Oh God, no Mom, what do we do? Lily's small voice trembled, edged with fright. As dread gripped her, an uneasy realization washed over Sarah. They weren't out of danger. Whatever they had escaped was still lurking in the shadows, even if they couldn't see it. And something about the figure waiting for them felt wrong, an omen of the danger yet to come. Look away, Lily, she whispered, gathering every ounce of courage she had left. But instead of turning her daughter away, her gaze darted back to the shape before them. What was it? With each heartbeat, the figure shifted closer. Sarah synchronized her breathing. Could that figure be another victim like them, or something worse, something that thrived in the unsettling quiet between the light and dark? A distant, echoing voice reached her ears, unmistakably familiar and painful. A vibrant melody that teased the edges of her memory, pulling her closer like a moth to a flame. You can't escape us, it sang, forming a chorus that sent ice through her veins. And in that moment, standing on the precipice of a world neither knew, the question loomed larger than ever. What if the real horror had only just begun? The figure was closer now, its form becoming more defined, sending a ripple of dread cascading down Sarah's spine. It wore a tattered cloak, dark as the shadows from the cavern, hiding whatever lay beneath. The air thickened with an oppressive weight, and each breath felt like a battle. Mommy, I feel funny. Lily's voice broke the silence, heavy with anxiety. The innocence there sent a fresh wave of panic through Sarah. She turned to her daughter, searching her face for any sign of the fear that clutched her own heart. It's okay, sweetie. Just hold my hand tight, Sarah said, forcing a calmness into her voice that she didn't feel. As they began to back away slowly, the figure tilted its head, and even from this distance, Sarah could feel its gaze drenching her in a cold sweat. Its eyes, if they were even eyes, glinted in the eerie light like smoldering coals, void of life, yet filled with an unsettling intelligence. Help us, it croaked, the voice dull and broken, echoing around them like a haunting lullaby. Join us. A shudder coursed through Sarah. Was it truly pleading for help, or was it drawing them in with false promises? Flashes of the cavern's shadows came rushing back, the screams and desperate whispers still echoing in her mind. The memories twisted together, crafting a web of uncertainty around her thoughts. We have to go? Now. Sarah turned abruptly, yanking Lily along with her. They sprinted through the barren wasteland, every step pounding with urgency. But the figure followed. Its movement was unnatural, gliding over the cracked earth, almost floating like a dark specter. For each stride they took, the distance between them seemed to shrink. Mom, it's coming. Lily screamed, her grip slackening with fear. Hold on, Sarah shouted over her shoulder, desperation punctuating every word. She pushed harder, but dread settled in her stomach. Was there truly a way out, or were they only running further into darkness? Glancing back, Sarah caught a glimpse of the figure. It had elongated, morphing as it approached, its cloak billowing like smoke. The air vibrated with a low, ominous hum, and the whispers began anew, climbing from the earth around them. Stay with us now. The word burst from Sarah's lips, raw and primal. She felt the energy in the air shift, a pulse of power that wrapped around her heart like a vice. They stumbled over the cracked ground, and in an instant, the earth split open. A fissure yawned wide at their feet. A sense of foreboding surged through Sarah. Time seemed to slow. Horror clung to the edges of her existence. Jump! She yelled, flinging herself toward the edge. She barely caught Lily as they tumbled into darkness. The drop felt endless, shadows swirling around them, clawing at Sarah's sanity. A scream broke free, echoing in pitch and terror, and then there was silence. They landed on something soft yet hot. The ground shifted under them. Sarah blinked in confusion as she focused on the dim light filtering around her. They were in a cavern again, much larger than the last, but this one pulsed, alive with a low thrum. Are we back? Lily asked, a tremor of hope threading through her voice. Before Sarah could answer, a distant chorus filled the air, one that was all too familiar, wrapping around her like a fog. You can't escape us, Mommy. I'm scared, Lily whimpered, and the fear in her daughter's eyes ignited the fight in Sarah once more. Stay close. She held Lily's hand tight as the echoes circled them, the alluring pull of the voices beckoning them deeper into the cavern's embrace. The shadows pooled around them, writhing with newfound vigor. Somewhere in the dark, Sarah caught sight of more figures, drifting between the bounds of light and shadow, their faces twisted in a mix of agony and longing. What if we never left? The thought crashed into her like a wave. As desperation clawed at her throat, the cavern around them began to distort, stretching and bending, merging reality with nightmare. Sarah felt a consuming dread ripple through her. Mom Lily's voice faltered. A scream slashed through the air, but it wasn't theirs. As Sarah turned, she knew the true horror was waiting just beyond the edge of perception, hunting them in the dark. Could they ever break free from whatever fate awaited them? Or was the real nightmare only beginning to unfold? As the shadows twisted and danced in the cavern, Sarah's heart raced like a wild stallion, fear coursing through her veins. She couldn't let the darkness take hold, not this time. We're going to find a way out, Lily. Together. Lily nodded, her small hand trembling in her mother-esque grip. Sarah scanned the cavern, desperately searching for any hint of escape. The low thrum pulsed around them, chilling her to the bone. Move, she urged, pulling Lily through a narrow path between the shadowed figures that loomed like specters. The wails crept beneath her skin, each note resonating with sorrow and longing. Join us, they whispered, and for a heartbeat, Sarah felt the weight of those words, grappling with the anguish they carried. But she couldn't afford to be drawn in. Lily needed her. Keep going, Sarah urged, her voice rising above the haunting melody. They pushed through the tight space, but the shadows grabbed at their clothes, trying to pull them back. Each tug felt like a weight anchoring her in nightmares past. Let us go, she shouted, anger and resolve igniting within her. The shadows hissed, their whispers turning frantic. She stumbled forward, a light flaring in the distance, glimmering like a beacon through the dark. Was hope rising from the gloom? We can make it. They surged toward the light, adrenaline pumping as they dodged the gnarled fingers reaching for them. The figures distorted, anger crimsoning their features like molten shadows. You can't escape, they cried, their voices warping into monstrous shapes. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The light flickered, dancing tauntingly. Almost there. She tightened her grip on Lily, feeling her child's fear resonate with her own. The beam thrummed with power, throwing warmth against the biting cold. Would it be enough? A deafening roar erupted behind them. The shadows surged forward, the darkness alive, hungry, filled with dread. Mommy! Lily screamed, and Sarah's heart shattered at the sound. Get to the light, she commanded, urgency spilling from her gut. They sprinted, seizing every ounce of strength left within. The shadows twisted, pulling at them with visceral hunger, threatening to tear them apart. Just as they reached the glowing threshold, the world erupted in chaos. The shift between shadows and light blurred as a chilling laugh echoed through the chamber. Sarah felt the pull of the dark, the figures lurching closer with cruel intent. Jump! She shouted, flinging them through the light. They propelled into an incandescent void, slipping through the fissure of despair, leaving the wails of the lost behind. They landed hard on cool grass, the sensation grounding, a stark contrast to the terrible place they had fled. It was early dawn, the soft hues of orange and pink streaking the horizon. They were outside. Mom, are we safe? Sarah turned, taking in the vibrant world around them, chirping birds, the rustling of leaves, and sunlight wrapping them in warmth. I think we are. Relief flooded through her, though she held her breath, waiting for the darkness to pounce. But it remained dormant, fading on the edges of her mind like a nightmare retreating at dawn. Tears brimmed in Lily's eyes, but they weren't tears of fear. We did it. Yes, baby, Sarah said, kneeling to pull Lily close. She hugged her tight, feeling the weight of loss melt away, but the memory of their encounter clung like a stubborn shadow. We did. But as the sun rose, illuminating their path back to Maplewood, Sarah couldn't ignore the nagging doubt. What had they truly left behind? The whispers lingered, and she hoped those souls would find their peace one day. Promise we'll never go back there? Lily whispered, her voice small. I promise, Sarah replied, squeezing her hand even tighter. They turned toward home, moving forward into the warmth and light. In that moment, standing in the soft glow of a new day, they were free. Yet, as they walked away, a shadow flickered at the edge of the woods, lingering just out of reach. It could wait. Let us go home, Sarah said softly, determination blossoming in her heart. They would rebuild, together, forever watching the woods that had tasted so much from them. A reminder that some monsters thrive in darkness but can be faced with the light of love and courage. As they entered the warm embrace of their home, a sense of finality wrapped around them like a protective blanket, bringing comfort to their battered souls. The darkness had been confronted. For now, they had triumphed. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on our next harrowing tales. You want to regret it later. Smash that like button to help us reach others craving stories like this. And flood that comments section with your thoughts. What did you think of this conclusion? Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this story ends. Your support can make a huge difference.